In this video, we're going to look at the various SPSS products, what they are used for, and how they're used to some degree in ICFM, the IBM Counter Fraud Management. But this will really apply to any project that you're working on. So in general, the number one product is, of course, SPSS. And really, the full name of the product is IBM SPSS. And it is the statistical package for social sciences, and it was intended initially for that purpose, but it's gone on now, and it's now used in many other areas, including healthcare, for example. And SPSS is sort of the core of all of the products. The second product being the modeler, and this is actually IBM SPSS modeler. And this program is intended, and we're going to look at this in more detail, but the modeler is intended to do, if SPSS as a statistical package is meant for descriptive and to some degree some predictive analytics, then the modeler is really focuses on predictive and especially data mining purposes. So that is the purpose of data modeler. If you've got SPSS modeler, if you've got tons and tons of data here, and you want to pull out some pieces of this that are useful for determining something useful in your company, maybe you want to increase sales revenue because you have determined that a certain number of people have by gender and maybe by age range buy a particular product. This is the kind of thing you could do with data mining and, of course, with modeler. And then third, you have the SPSS C and DS. So SPSS, and then it's actually, this is a long one, collaboration and deployment services. And it's often abbreviated CADS, CADS, or C&DS. And its purpose is to take the information from modeler and basically sort of allow you to kind of share the assets and collaborate on them. That's where the collaboration comes from. So you can, instead of having just one person working in modeler, you could have two separate people or three people or many more people working in modeler all at once, and then they can share the not just the data, because the SPSS, and we're going to see this in a minute, SPSS will be able to share its data, but once you have made analyses here in the modeler that you want to use for mining, and then you want to share that sort of thing out, then you would use CNDS. We'll look at that in more detail in a few minutes. Now, the important thing for right now is that these products, and these are not all the products, but these products in general, and particularly these two, are set up in a client-server environment. So, and let's just sort of draw a line to make this separated here. So, and then separately, there's something called a desktop component. The desktop component is, you can think of it as the offline version. So, for example, if you have SPSS here, and you have the desktop version of it, what that means is you can, if you install it on your laptop here, you can use that on an airplane without any connectivity, or you can use it online when you do have connectivity. But there'd be no server in this case. And just to make this clear, what we're talking about, this is the client, as opposed to a client installation, whose purpose is, in the case of a client, its purpose is to connect over to a server. So if you are doing this, then your data would actually reside, in most cases, would reside here, right? In the desktop version, your data would reside here. Now, it's possible, of course, to have data on the client side as well, and actually the server portion lets you export your data back over to the client, especially if you're working together in a group. But unlike working in a group here for predictive and data mining purposes, in the client server, if you're working in just SPSS, if this is the scenario of SPSS here, and then what will happen is you may not be able to take the data, so the data that you're using, in other words, you may not legally be allowed to put that data on your hard drive as a client, as a, if this is your laptop, you may not be allowed to actually have that data on your client computer. And so in that case, for regulatory purposes, you may be required to put it on the server, and therefore you need a client-server environment. But of course, because it's client-server, you can have multiple clients, and they can all connect over to one server. Now, this client-server architecture applies not only to SPSS here, but it also applies to the modeler. And so you're going to see client and server and data, all three of these terms, for both SPSS and the modeler. So just so you're aware of what that means.